Saturdays 8 till noon. Like them on Facebook, too.
And we're back on Saturday Morning Sports Talk with Terry, Tom, and Hunter.
And Kevin's here.
We're back.
Keeps
And
forgetting that
Kevin.
Kevin's here just because he's physically not here. Terry walks in here after taking a break and immediately grabs the PlayStation little wheel that we have in here for whenever we get bored on the podcast and want to take a few laps around the track.
I already won.
You already won?
Yeah.
You're always the winner. Is that how it works?
It was a 2-lap race.
It was
I
a
won.
2-lap race. Oh, well, that's good. So we just got done speaking a little bit of NASCAR earlier. We've talked about a little bit of NFL. We're getting ready to go to the NBA. Tom, did you want to reiterate that little little announcement we had in case people didn't hear it
Sure
now that
will.
we're back?
Cheddar's 300 Xfinity scheduled for today has been moved to Monday at 7 p.m. Monday at 7 p.m. Airtime is 6:30. WCSL, that's 92.3 or 1590 or ktcbroadcasting.com. Local area businesses are sponsoring senior salutes on the radio. Tune in this week to your local radio station and hear the special graduation wishes from our local area businesses. Always support your local businesses.
All righty, there we go. Little special announcements from Tom, the newsman. All right, now we're going to switch over to the NBA. I know that for a lot of people, they realize sports really isn't happening right now, so we have to come up with these narratives on our own. But this is actually something that is being moved towards in progress. The NBA is beginning to evaluate ideas on how to get the 2019-2020 regular season back. And how they're going to do that, they have agreed on a centralized location that will be in Orlando, Florida, ESPN's worldwide place of sports. You know, they're going to all just play there. They've got hotels for days, so they'll be able to have places for the athletes to stay. And there's a headline here on the NBA playoff plan. It is on one of the network's web pages. Biggest winners and losers in a 22-team return. I'm not going to click and read who all would be the biggest winners and losers, but the key that I took away from this headline is a 22-team return. If I'm not mistaken, there are 30 NBA teams.
Well,
that means
Cleveland's not coming back.
Yeah, that means that there would be 8 teams that are left off. And not only that, because I'm reading what the article says, there would be a few. This would cause for a few regular seasons games to be played, probably to try and help them get back into play-in shape. I know that's what a lot of players are really wanting right now because they've been at home for 3 or 4 months. But then they also say this would lead it to a play-in. It's like a play-in tournament to get into the playoffs. So essentially, we would go 22 teams. The bottom 8 teams would not be a part of this regular season game, the final regular season games. Then we'll have a play-in style tournament to then get into the playoffs. I think they do that essentially just to try and get the players more into shape, the extra play-in tournament, give them a little more extra games. I also think this gives an opportunity to those teams that are right there on the cusp. The West, usually the people that are sitting in the 8, 9, and 10 spot are only separated by a game. So this gives them an opportunity to really try and make a push to make the playoffs. Do you think this is a good idea for the NBA if they are able to bring this back? Only have the 22 teams come back. If you're part of the bottom 8 and you know you have no chance of making a championship run, go ahead and stay at home. That's limiting the amount of people that they're going to have at this one centralized location, obviously in Orlando. And do you like the thought of a play-in tournament to see who even makes the playoffs? We'll start with Terry.
Well, when you ask me, and I've got my own opinions about this, I always look at it, and if it was me and it was how many teams are above 500? I would say with everything that's went on, if you are below 500 or maybe one game, I'll put it like that. I will go one game below 500, just close. Then you could be able to be in. If you are 5 games or more back of being close to 500, then you're definitely out. The only ones it would be the ones from 1 game to 5 games of whether I would let them in. But, you got to have something that you throw out there for everybody to go by. And I just hate that you would come back after all this had happened. And, well, like Tom said, Cleveland would be, okay, your season's done. You
just don't like the fact they're leaving teams out.
Teams out. I mean, I just have a hard time with that because, I mean, these guys have played. They've put in as much time as anybody else has. Mm-hmm. Just on account they've had a bad season, I would say you're just eliminating them. But if you got to go forward, I guess you got to have something in, the view of everybody to see, is it okay? Are these people from Cleveland, the teams that's down at the bottom, are they going to say, okay, yeah, that's good with us, our season's done? Or how's that going to, come around?
Well, you were talking about the 500 rule. Let's look here at the East. You've got two teams, Brooklyn and Orlando, who would qualify for the playoffs with losing records. In the West, only one team, Memphis, they're 32 and 33, would qualify with a losing record.
So that's 19 teams.
I mean,
so there you go.
I don't even
500.
know. I mean, I understand what they're doing. I understand your point, Terry, but I would at this point, I might just go with either top 8 and just go do the playoffs. I mean, I know they want to play some more games and getting into shapes, but I don't know if it's worth it to bring that many teams back at this point. You take a Cleveland, they've got the worst record in the East, only 19 wins.
What's your next 3 teams that's less than 500?
That's less than 500 in which conference, Terry?
Either one. Either one, because I'm just going to take the top 22.
In the East, if you're going to take 22, that's 11 teams. Okay, so it's Washington, 24-40.
We don't
Charlotte,
need to be playing again.
23-42, and
See,
Chicago,
there's no way.
22 and 43. In the West, it would be Portland at 29 and 37. Portland seems like they have more talent than that. Yeah, New Orleans at 28 and 36. And then Sacramento at 28 and 36.
Well, those are the reason, though. Right there's my reason of saying what I said, because Portland was what, 29 and 37?
Yeah, 29 and 37.
Okay, so they're 8 games below. Nah, you're
Listen,
not in.
Listen,
You're
I
out.
can promise you they will push for the 22 teams. And I listened to Colin talk about it, and I couldn't agree more. And you want to know why? Because of one team that you listed there at the end. It's New Orleans. You can get people to tune in to watch Zion.
Okay.
Listen, I know what you're saying. I'm not going to guarantee that New Orleans is even going to have an opportunity to win. But if you're trying to get everything started back up and you're relying off of TV revenue, do you not think whoever picks this up, whether it's TBS, TNT, maybe ESPN, all these games, do you not think they would say, look, but somehow you got to get Zion in here?
Okay, no,
people
wait a
are going to
minute.
tune in to watch Zion.
If you would come back and they said, I'm going to take 22 teams, would New Orleans be one of those 22 teams to make it in?
If you just went 11-11 from the East and West, yes.
Would they? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your top 22.
They're 4 games back. They're in the top 22. They're 4 games back.
Okay.
Of 8th. They're in 10th. I would go opposite. I would just bring 4 from the East and 4 from the West. And
They
the
won't
reason
do that.
the reason that it being is because if we are worried about large gatherings and the more people, the bigger the risk. And really, if you look at it, you might say, well, that would eliminate Houston. That's a good team because they're 6th in the West. Do they really have a chance to win? I don't really think they do.
If they do the format that I think they're going to do, which is top 16 and not East and West, absolutely.
Yeah, just top 16.
If they do top 16 and they don't split it East and West when it comes playoff time, does Houston have a chance? Absolutely. Because there's no guarantee that Houston will draw a Clippers or a Lakers early. If you were just to match it up, just top 16, I think I saw the other day, I think they pull at least 2 Eastern Conference teams, first round and second round, and I think they could win both of those.
Yeah, I guess the top, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 41 wins. 1, 2, yeah, you'd have to have 41 wins to make it into the top 8.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying take the top 16.
You would
What
take
you're
the
saying.
top, yeah. I would say they would take the top 16. And then when that happens, there's no East-West. It's just the top 16 teams in the NBA. I think they should have done that
would
from the
basically
beginning.
be 8 and 8 because Orlando has 30 wins, and then the next is Portland at 29, and they're 9th in the West. So that would basically, if you went top 16, that it doesn't matter if you go East.
Well,
and
no,
West.
I know that, but I'm saying you wouldn't have a first-round matchup of, say, the Magic and Toronto. You could have a first-round matchup of the Magic and the Lakers.
But when you do that, New Orleans is out.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
they're out.
And so that I believe that's why they would want to do a play-in system to get into the playoffs, because they're going to give them an opportunity. Kevin, what do you think about the NBA looking to come back with 22 teams, not even the full amount of teams? Are you okay with that? Because it does look like Charlotte might get the back end of the stick. They'd have an opportunity to be one of the 8 teams left off. Does it hurt your feelings you wouldn't get to see the Hornets play again this season?
Is he there?
I don't know if you can hear
You talking to me?
Yes.
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 You talking to me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to deal with something real quick. No, the Hornets need to kill it while it's alive to cut the head off.
So you're
We've had enough misery and suffering. Well, what's the point of bringing them back?
Who are
Right.
you, man?
I want a new team.
Who are you?
Good basketball players. I don't.
I mean, you make a good point, but do you think that if Charlotte was a part of the teams that they brought back, and because the thing that's really standing out here that everybody is not going to be used to is the fact that there's going to be basically a playoff to get into the playoffs. They're talking about a play-in tournament. Do you think Charlotte would have any opportunity? Say they do it group stage wise. They threw that out. Seriously, they talked about World Cup style. We'll have 4 teams in one group, and they have to play each other. And the team that has the most points, I think they would probably do the top 2 teams with the most points advanced. Do you think Charlotte would even have an opportunity to? Yeah, okay, Kevin, I can see exactly what you were working on. Do you think that Charlotte would have an opportunity to steal a game from somebody?
No.
No.
Who they gonna beat?
But that's what I mean by it would come down to
they're not
group.
winning it. They're not winning a series. They might win one game. We might sell some, extra chicken tenders in the Coliseum. But there's no point in any of those teams past the 6 seed. It definitely gets in. The Rockets could beat the Lakers. They can't guard them. A lot of teams can't guard the Rockets. Whether or not they're going to win a championship is different or not. But I wouldn't go anywhere past the 6 seeds. If they do 8 seeds, I won't be bothered by it. But just to make the brackets make some sense. But you could go just 6 seeds, do the old NFL style, first 2 get to bye, and let's minimize the games and the risk and go play. I don't think any of those teams. Terry's worried about their season. They've already played 6. They've already been terrible for 60 games. I think they can, start getting ready for next year would be the best thing because it's going to be here quicker than anybody knows.
That's true.
Do you like the thought of a group stage? Do you like the thought of that? Maybe where the 22 teams that are available, if you are going to do a play-in system, the group stage where you could have the possibility of having a quote unquote how they used to they say it in the World Cup, the group of death, where it's like 4 of the top teams get put together.
I'm
No, they're
against
not gonna do
anything that has to do with soccer.
Oh God,
They're not gonna. They wouldn't do that in the NBA. They would do it on number of games you won. They'd put a lower team and then a middle team.
Yeah, but even if that's the case, if you go group stage, then you have the opportunity. If say you do that, 2 teams with lower winning records and 2 teams with higher winning records, you have an opportunity of having the Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks in the same group. You just have that opportunity.
No, you would do like.
I don't like any of that at all. It's not that hard. It doesn't change anything. Just do what you've been doing. Put 6 and 8. You just put your 8 teams out there and tell everybody else to go home. I don't understand why we got to make up something different just to do it. Like if everybody's going to be there, just play basketball. I think they're thinking too much on that. It's just silly, I think.
Well, since they're talking about this, and let's just keep with the hypothetical. They bring 22 teams back. And they leave the lower 8 out. Out of all of these teams, because obviously a lot of states are now allowing teams to go back and work out at their facilities right now. I know it's going to be limited. I think that you're limited the number of players you can have in there at the same time. Probably can't run a lot of scrimmage just to try and get yourself played back into shape through practice-wise. My question now becomes, out of the 22 teams that could come back, let's just stick with the top 4. Which ones have the best opportunity to make a run to win the championship? Would it be a veteran team that has a lot of older players like the Lakers, or would it be maybe one of the younger teams, and I'm just going to stick with the Clippers because that's who I think would be the contemporary out of the West, who have the younger guys, who've got fresher legs? Who do you think bounces back off of such a long layover?
Boston.
Terry.
I mean, I'm not just saying that. I mean, look how young these guys are. Anytime you take a bunch of young guys and give them this long of a rest, they're going to come back stronger, faster, everything that you would want to happen. And for the Lakers, I think that would be the worst thing now for them because I don't think they would have, and LeBron, I'm speaking of him too, the legs to continue at a pace that Boston would be able to. Boston, a bunch of young guys on that team, I think Boston would be huge.
What about you, Tom? And then we'll get to Kevin.
I don't know. I mean, you want to say, yeah, it's going to help the older guys. You know, that's one of the things they said, that if Jordan and then when it came back the next year, it was a strike shortened year, it was only 50 games. But it would be pretty intense. You know, I wonder how intense it's going to be. Of course,
It's a sprint now.
I think what else helps the older guys, though, if you're just going to go down there in Orlando and just play down there, then you don't have to do all that travel. You don't have the jet lag. There's no East Coast this night, West Coast next night. I do think it favors maybe the guys with a few more miles on them. You know, so I mean, I think that does help a guy like a LeBron. It's hard to think of LeBron James. It's like, how old is he now?
Oh,
like
I know.
It doesn't seem that. Yeah, but
37.
it's just like when you look at him, it's like, no, that guy still looks like he's 25.
Just
years
think
old.
about this. It's his 17th season.
Yeah, I know, but I think that's
And he
something
doesn't play short seasons. Last year was the shortest season. He makes deep runs, so
Yeah,
he doesn't
makes
just play
deep.
the 82 games and then it's over.
But I do think, you know, you got your young guy. I think the young guys can handle the travel and the grind, you know, of where they're doing the regular thing. But this format may help the guys with a little more miles on them. I don't know. We've never done it, so it's
Yeah,
all,
we've never done it.
all speculation.
Never done
We've
it.
never
Kevin,
done
who do you think does this benefit more coming back after a long layover? Is it the older guys or the younger guys?
I don't think the Lakers win anything unless it comes up with some kind of cockamamie scheme to have LeBron in the finals, like what they're trying to do. That's what I think all that is, because they know he can't get out of the West. Kawhi's going to smoke him when he gets to the Clippers, and it's going to be the end of LeBron. He still has yet to win a playoff game in 2 years in LA, if anybody's counting. And also, but the big controversy about Disney World is, I don't know if you guys have seen, is what I'm interested in is, and this is, I'm being for real, the players are arguing about going to Disney World because some players will have, because they're letting them stay where they want to in Orlando, which is, I think, the second most hotel rooms to Las Vegas in the nation. They're going to make them stay at the Walt Disney World resorts. Well, not all of the resorts are luxury hotels, and some of them, and some of the players have already started complaining, saying that some players will have unfair living conditions compared to other players. So that is the big controversy about going to Disney World. I knew Terry would love to hear that one.
Unfair living conditions? It's a hotel room.
Right.
You're
Right.
only probably
Right.
the possibility you're only going to be there for a month.
That's a whole month, Hunter.
I know it's a whole
Some of
month.
them's only going to be
but-
there.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
of them's only going to be there 4 days.
It'll take longer than a month to play out the playoff series. It takes
but
longer than a month, doesn't it?
well, yeah, it probably will if they
Or it
do
takes about
full
5 or 6
7-game
weeks,
series.
yeah.
I wouldn't. I'd like it if they just did first round 5 games.
Hunter.
Mhm.
What if they just stuck the lower? What if they just stuck the lower seeds in the crappy
There
hotels
you
because they're
go.
going to be leaving anyway and tell them to get over it?
There you
What
go.
I don't understand is, you know, they're gonna
That's what I would do.
they're gonna complain about living facilities, saying because there's so many different, you know, places to stay. You mean to tell me a hotel room can't hold 10 to 15 NBA teams at a time? I have been to tournaments in Greensboro, and they have had 15 teams there at a time, okay, with like 22 kids, all right? I think they can do it.
Yeah, that's a bunch of kids, though. You're
It's
talking
about-
about
it's
grown
about-
men.
It's
Grown men
about the
don't.
family. It's about the family and entourage, and you want to put you want
wanna-
7-foot tall men taking showers in the Walt Disney World Goofy Resort.
Well, if they can build Michael Jordan his own personal workout place while shooting Space Jam, they can't do the same thing for
That's
NBA
my-
players.
And do you not think that these guys with all the money they make would say, I tell you what, I got a place for us to stay. I'll pay for it. And take
Yeah.
them to another location.
I don't.
I would.
I think
but-
the living facility
and-
just wouldn't bother
and
me.
all this argument, I would just keep this thing as simple as I could. I like what Kevin said earlier. It's like, why are we doing all this stuff? Let's make this as simple as we can. Let's just take the top 8 teams from both and do what we usually do, and tell everybody else, too bad, so sad. I know you were a couple games out, but it is what it is. I mean, how many small businesses have been told, hey, you had to
Yeah,
shut down for 3
that's
months,
true.
but it is what it is. Sorry, Charlie. That's the way it is. That's what I would do. Take your top 8 from the West, 8 from the East, like you've always done. Play the playoffs. People are going to cry. We were hot before, blah, blah, blah. We had a chance. We got this guy coming back from injury. I think throw all that out and just say, sorry, Charlie. We're going with the top 8 from both, and let's go.
Look, I'm fine regardless as long as the NBA comes back with a playoff. I'm with a lot of people there where I could care less about maybe 2 weeks of regular season games because for a lot of teams it's not going to change anything. If you ask me still who's got the best chance to win it, it's the top 4. It's the 2 best in the West and the 2 best in the East. I don't know if the Clippers necessarily are second in the West, but I give the Clippers the best shot out of anybody. And out of the East, I give it either to Boston or I'm giving it to Milwaukee. I know Toronto's good and great on defense, but I think they're going to miss Kawhi when it gets later into the playoffs. I was just getting
ready to say, it's really amazing what they've done without Leonard.
Yeah. So,
I mean, really,
I'm fine with there being no regular season games left, but I understand why they would, and it's because of the name I mentioned. They want to get Zion in the playoffs in his first season. The games that he played that were televised, they were through the roof.
The kid's 20 years old. We got plenty of years.
I know we've got plenty of years for him, but what is the one thing that everybody's craving right now in that sports content? And he's a draw. Just his name, just like whenever LeBron's getting ready to play, he's going to be a draw.
At this
when
point,
Kawhi plays, he's going to be a draw.
At this point, anything's going to be a draw. And just the fact that they're back out on the court, I don't care if it's Terry Reinhardt playing. There's people's going to come out there and want to watch something, Terry. I mean, I just think at this point,
if I was out there, they'd be wanting to be there. Too.
That's right. I mean, we haven't had basketball in 2 months. You don't need Zion.
Terry,
at this point, you don't need Zion.
I've been after
to
Kevin
generate interest.
To get a KTC NBA team for a long time.
Now, you might be right. You might be right, Tom. You don't need Zion to generate people to watch.
Not now.
But you're not going to tell ESPN that and think that they're going to listen, do you?
Well, no. I think even ESPN would get that. I don't, like I said, I just don't think.
ESPN,
we better make sure we have.
And
Zion
Kevin
Williamson.
can agree with me.
I just don't.
Kevin
think that.
will probably agree with me. ESPN is grooming for Zion to take over when LeBron steps away.
Yeah, but now you don't. You might need it if there's a lull and it's been boring and uninteresting. But now anything's going to be interesting because we've had nothing. That's what I would say.
Did Kobe make it his first year?
No. Well, tell me if I'm right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Tell me if I'm right here, because I'm trying to follow some logic. Okay. So Michael Jordan was 6-0, and a lot of people call him the greatest. Some people now that didn't see Michael saw LeBron think he's the greatest, and he's 3-6. Well, he's won 3 less championships than Michael, and they say, well, he's taller and big and stronger and bigger, and that's why he's a better basketball player. And so. If that's the case, well, Zion Williams is bigger and stronger than LeBron and can jump higher than him right now, and he's got 3 less championships than LeBron, and he's never lost a championship. So if you can do the math to that, if you can add 3 mysterious invisible championships to LeBron's resume to tie Michael, then I'm going to add 3 to Zion and say Zion is already the greatest basketball player we've ever seen in the history of this planet, and that's just I might have to be a Duke fan going forward at some point.
That's ESPN's logic. It is, and so that's why.
Oh yeah, that was ESPN, not me speaking.
Yeah, that's ESPN's logic. So that's why. Look, I like watching Zion. I mean, it's not going to deter me from watching the NBA if Zion makes the playoffs or not. I'm just saying, if ESPN had it their way, he would.
I mean, people were basically watching a cartoon NASCAR race, you know.
Whoa,
so I mean,
yeah.
you put the NBA players out there. You don't need Williamson to generate the interest right now. The game coming back will be
Tom,
the interest.
Would it not help? That's not the point. I'm saying, would it not help?
It's gonna help, but I don't know.
Because think about it. You know, we're sitting here talking about
no
just the best.
to it.
We're just sitting
There's
here.
no
We're sitting here
negative
talking
to
about the top 16 teams. What if that first playoff matchup, if they just went 1 versus 16? You know who that would be? The Lakers and LeBron versus the Pelicans and Zion.
Well,
but I just got done saying.
Yeah, I
They're
think
not
he's
in right
right.
now.
That's the reason the
they're not even
NBA says
in
we're
right
going to bring back 22 because that includes Zion.
Exactly. That's the only reason I'm saying it. Like, I'm fine if they don't, but I'm telling you why I think it's going to happen. If they bring 22 back, Zion is going to be in conversation with that, and Ja Morant are going to be in conversation for that. Both of the 1 and 2 picks from this year's past draft will be able to say they've made the playoffs their first season. They took their teams to the playoffs. It's going to be enjoyable for them to watch. It's going to be one of those things like, is this the turn for the generation? Is this the change the NBA needs?
It's not
changing of the guard.
It's not the time for that. Because the situation is we just want to get back and play.
Yeah.
It's not this argument over who's the next guy? We need to promote this guy. We need a new face of the NBA.
I will say this, though.
It's not.
This is the perfect time for the NBA to test a top 16 playoff going forward and not East versus West. This is the perfect
I agree.
time. Because how
with
many
that.
times
I
has
agree
it
with
just
that.
been so lopsided where the West Coast teams are so much better than the East Coast teams?
See, but it's still going to be skewed because all right, well, I'm a West Coast team. I'm better, but my record's worse, so I'm going to get a lower seed, than somebody in the East. So unless you made them play like equal, make them play the other conference more. You see what I mean? So like you can have 10 more wins in the East and then the team in the West who's technically better than you, but you're still going to be seeded higher because you won more games, right?
The only way it'll be skewed is because top 16 will still have more Western Conference teams. But
not necessarily because their records might be worse because they played tougher competition.
Not if you look at the East as a whole. Sometimes the sixth seed has got a losing record.
I think the East had more teams with 500 and above than the West did. Didn't the West only have 9? Or was it vice
and then
versa?
look if it's
No,
and then
I
if
don't
it
think
and
that's
if
the
that
case,
is the case, then you'll have more Eastern Conference teams than Western Conference
Mm-hmm.
teams. I think it's perfectly fine that way. We always want to separate by conference and by regional and geographically, but why would you not just take the top 16 teams and just go with it?
Well,
why
I
would you not
agree
roll
there.
with it?
Top 16.
And if that is 10 West Coast teams to 6 East Coast teams, that's just how it is.
That's just how it works.
That's just how it is. Your
Yeah.
roster was not good enough for you to even be there to begin with.
The East had 6 teams with winning records. The Western had 7.
Okay,
See?
so that's really nothing.
I mean, so
Yeah.
even because then you have it this way, you get East-West matchups in the first round. It's not just East-East.
They don't want to do that because now you got to travel. Would you want if you're in Brooklyn?
I give
if
a
you're
damn
in Brooklyn,
what
they do.
billionaires and
They do.
millionaires
But they're
think
not
about
gonna do that,
traveling.
right?
But could you
Am I
imagine?
right?
Could you imagine if you're Brooklyn and now you got to go play Golden State in the first round?
Well, you could say the same. Well,
I mean, you don't wanna
but
do
you say the
that.
same. You can say the same thing about baseball in American League and National League. You could have Atlanta, LA matchup in the first round, and it's just as much of travel as it would be for Boston and LA to play.
But now, wait a minute.
It'd be the
If we're-
same. It would be you do the same. But in baseball, it's lined up to do that because it's not East versus West. It's just American League versus American League. If New York has to travel to Houston and then vice versa, there's no problem, and they do
I'm
it.
just saying I wouldn't want to do it. I mean,
And
you
they
do
already
it.
have it set up the same way in baseball that they do in basketball. You play 2 games there and then you switch.
You don't have
and then you
near-
play 2 games.
you
It's
don't
not
have-
1 and 1,
but
1
you
and
don't
1
have
like it
near
used to
enough-
be.
You don't have near the amount of playoff games. Though.
Yeah, but what I'm looking at, are we really not even talking about that? We're talking about everybody going to Orlando and playing on a neutral site where it's not going to be you're going to be at home.
No, it's no travel.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no travel
so
involved.
there's,
So why would you not?
And there's no fans,
You can
so you're not
that's
going to
why,
have none
that's
of
why
that.
top
Yeah,
16
this year,
would be perfect.
This year, yeah. From that logic, it makes more sense. But
I think
don't
top
know.
16 just going forward would be fine. Because like I need to see the Milwaukee Bucks rout the Orlando Magic. You think the Orlando Magic really would make it in a top 16 system? Maybe this year. But I don't even think so. What are they, the 8 seed?
So by your logic, okay, well, we don't want them playing Orlando. We want them playing Memphis. Is it going to be that big a deal? If
Memphis versus Milwaukee?
yeah,
That would be more exciting for me.
neither
get
one
Ja
of those
Morant.
series is going to be real exciting, Terry.
You get John Morant.
Neither
You would
one
get
of
John Morant to watch.
So you'd have your bottom teams playing each other?
It's going to happen regardless. It's going to happen regardless which team gets in there at the bottom. It's just,
If you go your top 16, the number 1 plays 16.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
you would get
It'd
If
be
I'm the
Milwaukee, playing
Milwaukee-
somebody.
It'd be Milwaukee and Orlando.
There
Because
you go.
Orlando would be 16, so that's
So it'd still be
that's
two
not going
East-
to help you. It's not going to help your cause. But
whatever. I don't like it. I seriously, I just don't understand the whole East versus West thing. I don't. I would love to just take the top 16 teams. Hell,
Well-
cut it in half. Take this the top 8, 4 and 4. If you want true competition of the best teams, just 4 and 4.
I just want to see.
I don't need 2 months of play.
I just want to see a game.
Yeah. That's true.
Well,
At this point, I just want to see a game. If I haven't eaten in 3 days, I'll take that piece of butter and bread. You know, I don't need a steak dinner. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. Okay, I mean it's kind of where we're at right now. Just put them on a course. Let's watch something.
well, we'll take a few minutes before we get into the closing commercials, and we'll just hit on anything that you guys want to talk about really quick that we haven't mentioned. I know we're still in a sports drought slightly.
Slightly.
Slightly. Well, the reason I said slightly is because you got to watch the 4 with Phil Mickelson and Tiger. You got to watch golf.
That one's sports.
NASCAR's
That one's
on.
sports.
So I'm not going to say
That's
that
good old
there's-
celebrity
I'm not
worship.
saying here that there's no sports. So
Well-
you still get NASCAR. You got a race tomorrow and a race Monday. Kevin, meanwhile, I think he's still just chilling in his hot tub.
He
If I
is.
can kind of hear
Yeah,
it
he
behind
is.
me. Kevin
just
is in
relax.
heaven.
Well, my
Kevin is
question,
in heaven.
Yeah, my question right now, and one of them is for Kevin. Well, I got 2 for Kevin, but one of them last week when the sports come on, first thing they show was the Phil and Tiger showdown. Second thing they show was Major League Baseball and them planning on coming back. Then the real sport that was happening, NASCAR, was the third thing they showed. I had a hard time with that.
It's just
why
not-
was NASCAR not number one since they elected to come back and to go ahead and try something?
That's not the biggest draw.
Yeah, but that really made me very disappointed in watching what I was watching.
It's just not the biggest draw right now. I mean,
But-
people are more, what's getting attention is when are they coming back? When's baseball coming back? When's football coming back? Is
I agree.
basketball going to come back? That's what people are really focused on. I tell you, if football doesn't come back, good Lord,
Ooh.
there's going to be there's going to be.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
I mean, especially college football not coming back. This is what people are really worried about. It's
it
not
is.
coming back. And these governors, like I said, getting back to what we talked about a couple hours ago, is that vaccine. If we have the vaccine by August, we'll be good. But there's not going to be a vaccine by August. There's just not.
No.
There's just not going to be a vaccine by August. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Is the stuff that's actually happened we're not really talking about, but. It's weird. It's the end of May. We haven't had a single Major League Baseball game.
I know.
I mean, that's crazy. So I hope they're able to get back. We haven't talked about baseball. I think they're going to have to do something similar to what basketball is going to do,
Yeah.
centralized locations. But just get them on the field. You know what I mean? Just
Try something.
find a
I mean, I'm
way.
watching South
Yeah.
Korea baseball every day,
Yeah.
early in the morning.
I haven't watched that
Yeah.
yet. I've watched the highlights. It's kind of funny. You talk about ESPN. They're doing South Korean baseball highlights.
Yeah, Dino's. They're pretty good.
Japan's going to come back without fans in a couple of weeks.
But
The baseball league.
I had
I,
two questions for Kevin whenever we
ahead.
go back to him. Number one, I wanted him to point to Volunteer Stadium from where he's at which way and what direction. And number two, bring me back a brochure. There we go.
Yeah, bring me back a brochure and give us the rewards points.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Give
let
us
us
the
have the
rewards
rewards
points
points
so
you
we
used to
can
got.
so we can get a discount when we go.
A brochure of what?
the
And
place
I have
you're
no idea
staying.
where Knoxville is.
Oh, so you can't point that way? It's over there.
The only way I can point Terry, the only direction I can point you into is towards Chattanooga. That's where they keep all of our championships polished.
Okay.
You had to bring
we
that
can't
up.
we can't get through a show without Appalachian State football.
I
being
know.
mentioned.
I
Hey, how
know.
about Kyle Busch having him in his Appalachian State car?
Yeah, we talked
Now
about
listen,
that.
App has way more championships than the University of Tennessee does, so I don't care where Knoxville is.
Yeah.
Remember I
They
told
could,
you.
and Vesper City Yellow Jackets have more championships than Peyton Manning does at Tennessee. So there's nothing about Tennessee
Feels
that,
like 98.
that excites me.
Well, Kevin, we are gonna.
Well,
Yeah,
are y'all working on winding up the show?
we are
Yeah.
working on winding
what you're
up the
about to
show. I was gonna give you a minute to talk about anything you really
I
wanted
want-
to mention. I know that your wife probably would like for you guys to get your day started.
Well, the thing, one quick thing before y'all start wrapping up and stuff
Yeah.
is Tom talking about nobody watches the NASCAR.
I did not
NASCAR
say
during,
that. I did
while they were
not.
showing,
I did not say
NASCAR
that.
was beating the Jordan. NASCAR was beating the Jordan documentary. They had 2.1 million ratings, 2.1 million viewers for Sunday 600. They had 6 million viewers.
Did I say
So,
nobody watched it? Did I say nobody watched
What'd
it?
you say?
I
What
said
was your
it wasn't
exact
the
words?
biggest
What was your
draw.
exact words?
Yeah, I said it wasn't the biggest
So-
draw. I did not say nobody watched it. It's not what I said.
So what's the biggest draw right now then? If it's
The
not, I
biggest
just
draw
said
is
it was.
going to be football. I mean, football is the biggest draw. And that's why everybody's worried about whether it's coming back. That's all. That's all I said. Terry wondered why it was covered third. I didn't say, oh, NASCAR, nobody watches that. It's not what I said. He takes what I say, he twists it around.
Yeah.
You missed your calling, Kevin. You should have been a lawyer.
Oh, God. And with that, we're going to leave, I guess, with this picture for everybody else. We're going to play it out of here, JP, with the Playmakers. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this morning to the Saturday Morning Sports Show brought to you by Mitchum's Kitchen. Kevin is enjoying himself.
Kevin, have fun,
Everybody
buddy.
Enjoy yourself on this Saturday, and we will see you next time. I can't. Saturday Morning Sports Talk, KTCBroadcasting.com.
The incredible man, I only do